Project is, I'll just quickly explain. Our mission is to help 10 million people start and grow a business of their own. We believe anyone can be an entrepreneur, and we're on a mission to give you those resources to start a business and grow a business for free. So we focus on subjects and elements that we believe can give people the tools they need to start a business or grow a business. And we believe, of course, blockchain and NFTs are one of those potential opportunities. Education around these things is vital. We started the Purposeful Project a year ago, and we had this idea that anyone that was looking for a job shouldn't have to wait to find a job and could create one for themselves. So we do free webinars like today. We're not going to upsell you anything. We're not after anything. We just want to give you knowledge and educate you with no agenda on subjects that we think can make your life. I can tell you my own personal experience. NFTs, 9 months ago, I was caught in an algorithm bubble that basically told me NFTs were bad. I believed it to be true. I watched the whole series of videos that were delivered to me by the algorithm about people that had either tax dodged to use NFTs to do that, or had been ripped off by the NFT ecosystem. And so I believed for way too long that they were a negative thing. And then someone I trust very much, an NFT whale, some would call him, he educated me about how the NFT system works, the opportunities ahead for the people I care about, the entrepreneurs out there, those people stuck in jobs they don't love, artists, people. I'm married to an artist. You know, I love the idea of what I guess the NFT ecosystem now represents, which is an opportunity to go direct to consumers, build community, and lift each other up. And I've re-educated myself in the last 9 months to see the benefit. I guess it's a bit like the internet. When the internet started, there's things that are bad about the internet, and there are things that are good about the internet. But to say the internet is bad and never do anything on the internet is just ignorant. So I've gone from ignorance to knowledge. And I think a big part of today is to make sure that you also have that knowledge. I will say as a disclaimer before we start talking about this subject that what you hear today is not advice, financial advice. It is not an insight. It is basically our opinions, our views, our experiences. It doesn't mean we're right. Don't get caught in the algorithmic bubble the other way, which is this webinar will be, I think, fairly positive about NFTs. I know I certainly will be, but I think it's important that you do your homework, that you learn about these subjects from many different angles. And our job today is to give you our knowledge. Now, if knowledge is power, then sharing that knowledge, in my view, is purpose. So hopefully today you get something from it. I think we do now have Regina, our second panelist, with us. So perfect timing, Regina. Hopefully you can unmic and just take a minute to explain to everybody listening a little bit about who you are and what you're about.
Hey everyone, sorry for the delay. We had some, let me just remove this because it gets a little bit weird. We had some tech issues, but really happy to be here. My name is Regina. I'm community lead for Nft'S. We're an NFT toolkit / platform, but I'll get on to that in a bit. I'm actually very new to the NFT space. It's been, I think, almost 2 months now. I actually was working in community marketing for Bumble before the dating app. So very different industry. I lived in London for a few years, and now I moved back to Lisbon, which is my hometown, and becoming more and more a blockchain hub in Europe, which is very exciting. So right time, at the right location as well. So I'm also working as a journalist part-time. So I write mostly about technology and society and trying to do both things, but at Nft'S. And when I'm writing is just bringing NFTs and the blockchain technology to the masses, which is what we're trying to do in our project as well.
Regina, thank you for being here and giving time to our community to educate everybody on what you know about NFTs. So thank you for being here. I think we'll start off now. I think for me, understanding what NFTs is pretty obvious, but for some of you listening, it might not be. So Regina, do you mind just taking a minute to explain to everybody, what are NFTs and how do they work?
Yeah, absolutely. So as I was saying, I'm new to the space. I'm not a technological person, which I think might be helpful for the people in the audience. Actually, I'm sure Philip can go into more details on the really tech stuff. But basically, an NFT, put in an easy way, is a digital asset. So contrary to a Bitcoin or an Ethereum token, they are fungible. So one Bitcoin is worth exactly the same as another Bitcoin. An NFT is not changeable and not fungible. So on that sense, and it can be anything, mostly been used for arts so far. So visual art, probably heard of NFTs selling in the millions of dollars, whether it is tweets or crypto punks, bored apes, and all this hype around NFTs, but really they can be anything. And that's a little bit what we're trying to do at Mnfts, is utilize this technology to actually give it day-to-day applications that can go from anything from ticketing to actually physical real estate or burritos or glasses of wine, which is something we did in Lisbon, a fun project I can tell you about in a bit.
I think for NFTs, the thing a lot of people ask me is like, which NFTs should I buy? And that I should just highlight, I'm trying to do two things at once right now, which is a big mistake. I don't know if it's politically correct to say this, but guys should definitely not do two things at once. I should not be doing two things at once. I'm trying right now to buy Matrix, an avatar from Matrix, the movie. They're dropping right now with Warner Brothers. And so I personally buy NFTs around projects that make me smile or I feel connected to. So I actually think we're living in the Matrix today, for example. I think that movie is actually a documentary, and that's a whole different story. But Philip, I wondered, what do you think when it comes to buying which NFTs? What's your process for deciding what NFTs to buy?
Yeah, I think before I get into that, and that's always the first fundamental question that everyone looks at. But Regina, I think you did a fantastic job at describing or explaining what an NFT is. But I want to take it a little step further. For me, an NFT, which is the non-fungible token or smart contract, is basically going to be everything that governs the next iteration of the internet. And that is the metaverse. So everything that will be inside the metaverse will be an NFT of some form or another. So I want to take it one step further, that what we're seeing right now from an NFT side is, yes, it's art. It was a surprise to most that the art industry took it up and ran with it. But I think what we're going to be exploring in the next few, I would say in the next few weeks, is we're going to start seeing real utilization of these NFTs. And I think your example of the Matrix is ideal, because that NFT that you will own for the rest of your life, if you choose to have it, will give you access to so much more. Will give you access to metaverse games, Matrix games that they might be launching, merchandise. You might be invited to exclusive events or seminars. You're going to be given the inside track. So you are going to be joining one of the most exclusive Matrix communities. Now that's going to lead me into my next point. When evaluating an NFT project, and let's not fool ourselves, there are too many out there, and there are too many copies, and there's too many, iterations of Bored Ape Yacht Club as an example. And I would say that 99% of these NFT projects are likely not going to work. They are likely going to fail. So when evaluating an NFT project, it is fundamental to look at the community behind the project. Look at the benefits of joining these communities. The sentiment is very important around a community. There's a lot of FUD, which is obviously the bad components of online ownership. When everyone has a vested interest in the strategic outcome of a project, they all feel like they have equal say, a majority say in what, the governance of that project. And if it doesn't go a certain way that they might not understand the intricacies of what happens behind the scenes, they don't like it. They don't understand what it takes sometimes to get the right marketing machine in place, and they kind of are very critical to the teams. The next component of evaluating an NFT project is look at the teams behind it. So the brains, the experiences, do they have the credibility? Do they have the experience in running large scale projects before? Or is it just a, mom and pop shop type of garage setup, and they're just taking a few screen grabs and they're trying their luck? You have to do your due diligence. And I think you're 100% right, Simon. When you choose a project, you have to do your own research. We're not providing legal or financial advice on this call, but we do have the experience under our belts to be able to understand what those certain metrics are. I think also when you're evaluating an NFT project, look at the bot activity. This is also very, very important. So it's relatively straightforward to see bot activity on community conversations. A lot of fake accounts, a lot of copy and pasted comments. These are bots. These are bots in a community, and you need to be careful of these, because the last and probably one of the key indicators of the value or potential of a project is the community size. So a lot of these projects will go out and they'll shill traffic. They'll get fake activity up and running. They'll get fake followers up and running, because when evaluating an NFT project, most people will just go, oh, okay, these guys got 100,000 followers on Twitter. But you've got to deep dive into that conversation and look at these followers. There's various tools out there available. You can authenticate an audience. So you need to keep an eye on the authenticity of a project and the brains behind it.
Yeah, well said. Again, everybody listening, this is not financial advice. We're not saying buy NFTs. I always tell people, be careful with whatever you invest your time and money in. Do your research, do your due diligence, and be very careful. I am buying right now. I'm in a queue to buy a Matrix NFT because I like the movie. I like the connotation of the movie, and so that's why I'm buying. And I might lose all my money. You have to be aware of that. Just to add what Phil said as well, because I think what Phil just described with the whole, I guess, the long tail of the metaverse and where this is all going, I think that people can't relate it back to the real world. And my view is that property, for example, in the real world will all be sold as an NFT in the future. I've just sold a property, for example, and I sold it and it's a one-off sale and that's the end of it. But if I put it on the blockchain and sold it, there's a potential I could have had commission, and my children could have had commission from that property sale from now forever. And so it makes sense that these things get sold in that way in the future. So the real world is going to connect to the metaverse, right? Do you both agree with that potential future?
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. That's definitely one of the ways I think property has a massive potential.
But I mean, digital real estate right now is going for crazy amounts of money. Like if you look at these plots of land that's being sold in Decentraland, there was a plot of land sold the other day for, I think, $2.69 million. Obviously, this is prime real estate in terms of digital, location. But that is absolutely where people are going to spend more and more time. And if there's people there, it's like any kind of, physical retail strategy, location. It's obviously going to dictate price. There was a yacht sold the other day for, I think, $650,000. I stand to be corrected on the actual numbers, but we're having a debate about that internally. Is it overpriced or not? I think it's not. I think from a ticket sales perspective, these people are going to make so much money.
Well, I think. Oh, sorry, Phil. I think the thing about it, what's interesting is people that haven't yet quite grasped how it works will say, and worth 2.4 million. And I think it's a bit like saying, how can a plot of land in Mayfair in London 150 years ago only be worth $10,000 US, right? Now, Mayfair could have turned into a dump. It could have ended up being the rubbish dump of London, but it didn't. So all of these purchases in the metaverse also have that risk, right? That they end up being broken projects or corrupt or falling apart. So there's still risk in the system when you buy these things. I guess you're buying the potential, back to your point about the team and the vision and the community and so on, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, by the way, I mean, do you think, Phil, for a second, you could just talk about that land purchase? Because a lot of people are hearing that headline. What I know it, but I want people listening to understand it. What actually happened there? What is it? Why is it worth 2.4 million, do you think?
Location within Decentraland. So it's going to be prime real estate right in the middle, where most of the major focus or retail, areas will be. So it is like you said, buying a prime spot in London that will only increase in value because of more traffic, more people in the area. So, that's for me, the biggest price indicator. How they got to that number is they've done their due diligence and maths and, supply and demand. But I do think that that's probably worth it. I think we're only starting to touch, we're starting to touch the arena of what these assets might be worth. And for me, digital real estate has real utility. I mean, you can do what you want within that space. You can commoditize it. You can set up entertainment venues. You can bring in other NFT projects. So you basically become a real estate owner in the physical, like in the same definition of the physical meaning, right? And like I said, I think the pandemic is not ever, or not rather the pandemic, but the virus is never going to go away. It's only going to come back every season, and what that looks like in terms of actual physical movement, it's sad, really, but people are going to be spending a lot more time in the metaverse. And if more people are spending time in the metaverse and you've got real estate there, then of course it's a no-brainer. You're going to make your money back.
Well, today's webinar is about buying, selling, and I guess creating NFTs. I think we've talked a lot about buying. Maybe we can switch to you, Regina, for a second. With all your marketing experience and so on, if someone's looking to create NFTs, what's your view on the marketing side? How are you approaching that kind of community build element?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that also, just to touch on what you were saying, but I guess NFTs can be, as I was saying, a lot more than just these collectibles or things, even if they're related to movies, or unlock special privileges or memberships. The way that Mnfts and the way that we're seeing that NFTs will go is that everything will be sold as an NFT. So, and I think what I can bring onto today is actually showing people how easy it can be to get your own smart contract, deploy a store, and actually start minting. So just a little bit of context, most NFTs are minted on the Ethereum blockchain. That is actually, at the moment, gas fees on the Ethereum blockchain are very expensive. So it's quite costly to mint an NFT. So if you want to start your own project, it can be quite expensive to sort of get started, even if you want to do art or collectibles, or if you want to use NFTs with a utility purpose, say to do ticketing for your event, for example. So this said, we're exploring, we first started off building on Ethereum, but recently moved to Near. So we've been live on Near for about 5 months. Near is another blockchain that utilizes proof of stake, which is a different technology to what Ethereum is currently using. They're developing Ethereum 2.0 that will be utilizing proof of stake, which just uses a lot less technology, a lot less energy, and makes transactions a lot cheaper. So you can actually deploy your own smart contract for about 6 Near, which at the moment is around $60, which is still money, obviously, but then every mint or every transaction you transfer the NFT to someone else can be very, very cheap, costing like 1 cent. So very easy to start your own NFT project, whatever you want it to be like. So it doesn't need to be a collectible. It can be anything that you please. If you own virtual yoga class business, you can sell those yoga classes as NFTs, for example. You can sell an NFT for a membership of those classes. And I think that's just really what I wanted to mention here as well. If you're thinking about starting your NFT business, it doesn't need to be under this model that's mostly known. It can be utilized for anything. And this thing that we were mentioning earlier about you being able to earn royalties forever can be really, really interesting, especially if you can, for example, on Mnt's, you can mint an NFT and split royalties and revenue with 25 people, which means that, say you're hosting an event, every time you mint a ticket to that event, you can split the revenue with people who are doing the catering, the artists that are playing at the events. And every time that ticket is purchased, the transfer of those funds happen automatically on chain. So it's not a centralized thing that I will receive the money and then I'll send it over to you. It's all automatically done on the blockchain. So that's pretty incredible. So this said, moving on from the creating your store part, which if people are interested, I can definitely show you. And after I share my contacts to send you a few Near drops so that you can try deploy a store. On the marketing side, everything that you were saying earlier in terms of building a community, I think that's the most important thing in the NFT space for sure, is having people who believe in your project, rewarding that community. I would say that's really the main focus, utilizing all the channels that you can. Discord, Reddit, Telegram, I would say are the main ones. But yeah, just putting that out there, there are hundreds of possibilities to what we can do with NFTs. And I think the potential really is huge for creators and for anyone who wants to start a business.
Yeah. Thank you, Regina. Everybody listening now, you can drop your questions in the Q&A section. We'll be answering your questions in just a moment. So please feel free to do that. We'll be doing that in the next few minutes. To the Q&A, Philip, I just want to ask you, what do you wish you'd known when you first started in the NFT world? If you go back and think all the things you've learned doing what you're doing, is there anything that stands out that you wish someone had told you?
Yeah, that there was an alternative to ETH.
So
I think, yeah, I think it's just because ETH is one of the biggest ecosystem projects on the planet, right? So it's kind of the first entry point for most guys people exploring the NFT environment. But like Regina with Mintbase, Space 7's been developed off the Concordian blockchain, which is also proof of stake, and we've got our gas fees around 50 cents or so. So I think we go back to the question about entrepreneurs, right? So how does an entrepreneur join or get into the space if the barrier to entry is so high on ETH? They simply can't. I mean, why would someone want to pay those hundreds of dollars, which is fluctuating based on price? Why would they get into this, or how could they afford it necessarily to get things going? But there are alternatives. Like we've got Mintbase, we've got Space 7 right now that are providing extremely attractive propositions in terms of overall cost expenditure. And we are driving a very, very healthy community. I think one of our strategy or our strategic points will rather be focused more around art and the creator and the value of creativity. So we haven't launched our token yet. We will be launching it. I think we'll do public sale, I think in December. But we want to also move or stay away from, the Moon Boys or the When Lambos and all these type of, shilling terminologies or sentiments that might creep in from time to time in the community. So we are really all about the community creativity and the artwork itself. So that is very important when identifying a project that you want to work with. But yeah, so sorry, go back to your question, Simon. What was it again?
No, I think you answered it really, which was, what if you'd known earlier something, what would it be? And I think, highlighting that there are many ways to buy into the NFT ecosystem, and for that matter, deploy your project. A lot of people do, I guess, use platforms like OpenSea, which of course is Ether-based, and people get kind of into the belief that that's the only way to launch a project. I think it's really important there.
Yeah, I think also, when getting into the NFT space, don't be too worried about the block that it's built on, because most projects will end up multi-chain anyway. So, and this goes back to the metaverse point, where what I believe the definition of the metaverse will be is an interoperable highway of all these different ecosystems and projects, all connecting through multi-chain. So I wouldn't necessarily be worried about the block or the chain that you choose to develop your project on, because it will be connected to others. So it's just a matter of getting going.
And Regina, what about you? You've gone through clearly a lot of learnings. What would, if you went back to your younger self, I guess, is there anything you'd advise for people that perhaps listening want to understand the ecosystem a bit? Was there anything that jumps out that you wish you'd known?
Yeah, I think first, just really basics, best place to look for information I found to be on Twitter. I wasn't a Twitter user at all, but that's where I'm looking for all my information at the moment. And then just really try to understand what is going on. I was a crypto enthusiast, but very noob before joining Mintbase. And I think it's so easy to get lost in all the tokens that are being launched and seeing all these NFT projects. And it's very easy to get lost. So really research the project, research what the team is doing, what this token is actually doing, what's it for. I would say just do your research. That's really important.
And just to say, both Regina's and Phil's information, what they're doing is all in the links below. This broadcast will also be out on YouTube later, so you guys can go re-listen to it if you missed anything. And the links to Regina and Philip and what they're doing will be in the notes below. So if you want to connect to them, you can through those contacts. Now, why don't we jump to some questions? So I'm going to jump to the Q&A section here now. So I can see some people have dropped questions in the stream, but if you've got a question, drop it in the Q&A. and we'll try and get them all answered. So let me and I can see some people have raised their hands as well. So why don't you let me just get through a couple of questions in the Q&A, and then I'll see if I can work the tech and bring someone up on stage to ask a question. But so Chris Wright has asked, could my own invoices for decorating work be an NFT? And the code, say, gives a discount on future bookings. What if it was traded? I'm confused. It's just for things to trade or how they will be used. Who would like to take that question?
An interesting question. I mean, Regina, I'll give it a stab. Maybe you can help me elaborate. I think really I think the question is more about royalties or what future earnings could be potentially made on something that's minted. Yeah, I think it depends on the type of smart contract that is deployed. For us, much like what Regine was talking about, you can determine what those royalty fees might be like, and let's not forget royalties are infinite and never ending. So I think it all depends on the smart contract really that is chosen. But yes, it is possible, but you just need to look at the mechanics of the smart contract.
I would say it is possible as well. So your invoice you could upload it or mint it as a PDF file as an NFT, and then add extra file types that would say a discount, that would say this allows for a discount, or you just know on the NFT text that it allows for a discount. So it can be when someone goes to your store, if it's decorating work. So when someone asks for your services, they just need to prove that they have the NFT, and they can actually burn it depending on the blockchain that it's, or on the project that it is on actually. So on Mnt's, you can burn the NFT, which means nobody else can ever use it. It's basically being burned out of the blockchain. But in terms of what if it is traded, so if you send me the discount for decorating work, I can technically send it to anyone else, or I can sell it. If I put it up for sale, if you minted it with royalties, then you will get a piece of the sale, and whoever I sell it to can use the discount if I just transfer it as well. So the NFT really, you can put anything you want on there. So pretty much anything can be used as an NFT.
It's a really good question, Chris. I think because for those, I guess there might be a mixed audience here, some learning about NFTs, some probably know something already, but and Phil, Regina, tell me if you think this is wrong. But I think right now, and of course this space is evolving quite quickly, one thing to keep in mind that, whatever you create probably has to have some sort of value. Now it can either have value in, let's say, an artistic sense. People like it. Maybe some people would like it invoiced. I don't know. That could be an appeal to someone. Or perhaps it's a utility. So in other words, if they own that invoice, then they get discount on future. That's like an access, almost like a membership equivalent, right? So and you can have the two. The two aren't mutually exclusive. You can also put the two together. But I think when thinking about whether or not you're going to create an NFT, you might want to think about that value that your NFT brings. And it could bring an artistic value. And I bought many things that, I bought NFTs because it's given me access to a community I love, like that can also be part of the utility. But I think not just having an invoice and making it an NFT. Well, I mean, Jack Dorsey made one of his tweets an NFT. So maybe if you're famous and it has some sort of historical relevance, it would fetch a good price. But I do think to keep in mind, probably falls into one of two categories. It's either a utility and brings value to someone over time, or brings some sort of satisfaction on the creative side. Again, that's where it is right now. What do you think, Phil and Regina? Any comments on that?
Yeah, 100% agree. I mean, it was a bit of a tricky question because I thought he was actually referring to how to basically create an invoice exponentially on a blockchain,
right?
Keep that in some sort of governance format.
Right. Look, interpreted that way. I know what you mean. I think. Yeah, art is subjective, but I think when you want to mint something, you obviously want to look at it from that perspective in terms of value. And you're right. If it is someone famous, then yes, there might be some value behind it. But I wouldn't say that minting an invoice is necessarily going to be the purpose of what you or achieve the objective you're seeking. I wouldn't say that's probably the right case.
I think maybe just to add to that, unless the invoice is sort of works like a voucher or like some sort of membership that allows you to have better prices. You could mint decorating work, technically, like an hour of decorating work as an NFT. That would be part of the utility of the NFT. So, and if someone purchases your hour of decorating work NFT, maybe they can have a discounted service next time. So that's definitely a possibility, and that's definitely something that you can do, and then just be paid on chain. And say you rent a space, you can also, as I was saying earlier, share revenue, so pay 10% of all your decorating work. Straight on the NFTs. Sorry, Philip.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's also proof of ownership, right? So I mean, if an invoice is proof of ownership, then yes, it's a perfect case. So like if you've got, if there's any dispute or claims or anything along those lines, of course, then it's immutable, like you said. And yes, it would be obviously in the eyes of the law, it would be, you can't argue that. So if that's the purpose of what you're hoping for, 100% it would make sense. And it's obviously all available on the public blockchain. So it's all, based on a ledger, and you can record it. So if that's the purpose, then yeah, there is a potential strategy around that.
I think that's the crazy thing about this. Oh, sorry, Phil, to interrupt you, but I was going to say, I think one of the crazy things about this space is that one question like that, there's just so much potential with this technology that, it's limitless. I mean, you start brainstorming what the future could look like. I mean, for example, there are people that sell their potential income for better cash flow. So maybe that invoice isn't going to get paid for 90 days, right? So you need the cash flow. You could sell that invoice potential income to someone else on the blockchain.
Yeah, absolutely.
Early for that, selling that invoice and reoccurring, money forever from that NFT, because you sold the invoice early. It's just mind blowing what could happen in this space. But yeah, and I think bring it to where it is today. Go ahead, Phil.
No, I mean, but that's exactly it. We're at the starting point of the next wave of everything we understand about commerce and the internet and life. So we are I mean, like, the old saying is true that future generations are going to be working in jobs that we don't know or currently are aware of right now. Like, okay, I'll give you an indication of how old I was. When I was in university, and I'm sure I'm not alone on this, there was no such thing as Google or Facebook. So, and that took me down an interesting path of 15 years or so of work.
Some of my friends on TikTok just said boomer, by the way, so, but yeah.
Yeah, but, now I was pushing the digital arena, like, I was part of, Web 2.0, with decentralized information. And now we're looking at Web 3.0, and that's decentralized ownership and wealth. So, we're at the starting points. And I think these type of questions are awesome because people are thinking along wonderful lines. Like, I'm not going to have all the answers. None of us are going to have all the answers, but someone out there, could be the next Apple or Google because they've come up with a really creative angle on how to deploy a smart contract.
And if you're on this webinar right now, you are an early adopter. Right? You are an early adopter. It's just beginning the impact. To me, it reminds me, I'm going to show my age now, but I was involved in the .com boom and bust in the late 90s and 2000. I just started my career. I just started to make money in my first business, and I got a little bit caught up in that world. I bought lastminute.com and a few things, but I didn't know what I was doing. And no one really understood what was happening with the internet. There was a lot of people saying, oh, the internet will never take over high street businesses. But today, for example, someone said something to me that kind of makes me realize just how big this can get. The biggest competitor to Amazon is cryptocurrency. I'll say that again. The biggest competitor to Amazon is cryptocurrency. And if you can make the link, you'll begin to understand the potential of why this is so big with things like DAO and the decentralization of ownership. Yeah. And that's how big it can get. Now, go ahead, Phil. Sorry.
Well, I mean, like, we will all become our own store owners.
Right.
Exactly. This is the direct to consumer, perspective, right? So that is what an NFT will be able to provide everyone with the option to open up a storefront like an Amazon. The challenge, of course, that Amazon is very big. Now, the next challenge is that Amazon is going to tokenize their own asset. So, and when they do that, they're not looking at margins of whatever they're extracting right now, 10% or 5%. They're going to be extracting margins around 20%. So when you think about a shift, a meteoric shift in business strategy like that, obviously, first and foremost, crypto is it's here. It's not a trend. And if a company like Google or Amazon or Apple are tokenizing their assets, then 100%. Like it's no brainer, right? But they are very big, so you have to obviously take that into consideration.
That's also their weakness. I mean, people always look at history. You can look at history to tell you the future, right? And you look at businesses. How did Amazon beat Walmart, right? How did they beat these initial institutional companies? I mean, Amazon's got a weakness because it is centralized. They will always be centralized. They're never going to suddenly give away the business to everybody, right? But that's the opportunity that we have now in this Web3 world, that people like Amazon, or even Google for that matter, will have trouble competing, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that's also important. Centralization, like Facebook changing their name to Meta was a significant moment in time.
Yeah,
but
won't
now,
save them though, but yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, if you think about it, like the decentralized web is where we all stake claim in wealth creation. Do you think Facebook is just going to suddenly go, hang on, guys, we don't need to make money anymore? Yeah, you guys can make money. Do you think they're really going to do that?
If they were smart, they would make a legacy, but they won't, and that's why they won't survive, I think, because everything's going to be centralized. But bringing it back, bringing it back. So I want to get through a few more questions before, I know you guys have got businesses to run, so I want to make sure we get these questions answered before you go. If you raise your hand, I will bring you up on stage if I can, if you like, but I'll just answer one more question before we do that. And I think just Camelia, I'm dyslexic, so I sometimes get this wrong. Camelia, I hope I said your name right. How much do you think it costs for someone to launch their own NFT collection? For example, 10K drop that we'll see a lot of right now. How much does it cost to do that? It's a good question. Regina, do you want to give that a go first?
Yeah, sure. I guess that will depend a lot on the blockchain that you're minting it on, as what we were saying earlier. 10,000 NFTs can be quite costly, I would say, but it will really depends on where you're minting it.
And of course, you can do a pre-drop, and other people can mint it for you, right? There's many systems that you can do that. Phil, what do you think? What platforms do you recommend? Might be a chance to plug what you're doing, but what platform do you recommend? Feel free to plug your own, but what do you recommend?
Of course. Yeah, look, I think, I mean, what I simply love about Space 7 is the ease of, or the intuitive design and the ease of registering and getting going, right? It can take you less than 5 minutes to set up an account, download the right wallet, CryptoX wallet, and start minting. That's how long it can take you. Now, that's the easy part. What the hard part is, the cost consideration that also has to take in to concern is the production behind things. So you do want to get artists, you want to get creatives into the space to help you with the project, but then also building your community around your project is going to take time, effort, and money. So you have to take that in consideration. Like, I mean, there's guerrilla tacticking, on Twitter or Telegram. There's shilling. There's various different marketing activities that has to be done to build up a community, to get noticed, to get awareness, and that is going to come with cost. So, when you are an entrepreneur and you're getting into the space, it's relatively easy to get going, but to build is obviously, that's where the challenge comes in, and you need to do your your proper costing structures when deploying.
Regina, someone's asked here, what were the first 5 steps to building my own NFT project or something in the universe? I mean, I know you're so knowledgeable about community elements, which I think is one of the key things to think about, how to build a community. But what's your thoughts on, doesn't have to be 5 steps, but what do you think people need to go through to perhaps build their own NFT project?
Sorry, we have a little bit of a connection issue, but I think I understood the question. So then again, I'm not sure if we're talking what kind of NFT project we're talking here. So it will depend a lot on what we're talking about, but really building that community, shilling your art, ensuring that people can see you. So being in all the social media channels that people are on, building your Telegram group. But I just wanted, again, to reiterate that NFT project can be absolutely anything. You don't need to follow that traditional model of just launching a random collection and shilling it. We can think of NFTs so much more beyond that. And I would love to talk with anyone about utility NFTs, how you can use NFTs to build your business, even if it is a physical business or a services business. And I think there are hundreds of ways to build that. But yeah, main thing in the NFT space, especially if we're going into art and collectibles, I would say just really focusing on building that community.
if people want to understand the metaverse and not wait for it to go mainstream, is there any easy access you think? What's the best way to go and experience what the metaverse might look like or what it's going to be about? How do you, what's the gateway there in your view, the best gateway?
I think the two leading projects at the moment is the Sandbox and Decentraland. I think that's the best two projects right now that you should look at. And I mean, you also look at their token prices, incredible amount of upward movement happening there, because the second that Facebook changed their name, all of these other projects just took flight with that movement. But if I were anyone trying to get into the space, I'd look at Sandbox. I think is a great project. I think they're also run by a fantastic crew. And Decentraland also very good. Roblox is another one. I think there's various other options. I worked with a venture builder in Southeast Asia, and they were launching a metaverse called rFox Vault, and that's Red Fox Studios. And they are doing something quite interesting in the space, that they're going to be building a fully immersive e-commerce platform, where people can go in and everything is NFT, from the shop to items inside the shops. And then you can go to a concert, you can go to all of these different options. And it's very cool. I mean, the designers, they've got some of the best design studios in the world working on it. But there's these various metaverse projects out there that you can go in. But the argument is that the metaverse? Okay, that's like what we're calling now is a virtual reality or virtual, experience. What I think the metaverse is more actually is, like I say, the interoperable ecosystem of connected events and connected projects. And not only virtual reality, but we're going to start thinking about augmented reality. Now, augmented technology has been around for many years, but I think now with the right technology and the right adoption in terms of virtual reality, we're going to start seeing some really cool use cases in augmented reality. First example that I think, because art is right now, massively booming in terms of NFTs, I think is museums. I think museums are going to start introducing technology to completely change the user experience within their physical environments. Now, the augmented option is a gateway into something deeper. That's it. So I think, I use this example often, and it's a connection that a lot of people don't actually know, but I'm currently based in Amsterdam. Who's the most famous artist is Van Gogh, right? But Van Gogh also has an enormous following in Japan. Now, I use this example because imagine going into the Van Gogh Museum, looking at one of these collections, clicking on something that's in terms of, an augmented overlay, popping over to the Japanese National Museum and looking at his exhibition there. I think just from a user experience point of view, we are looking at very exciting use cases. So for me, the metaverse discussion debate, what it actually is, it's up for grabs, right? But it's a combination of NFTs, decentralized finance, which is obviously DeFi, and that is what the future of everything, like I said, commerce, our day-to-day experiences, that's everything is going to basically be, governed or connected to a metaverse in some form or fashion.
And just before we wrap up, can you perhaps both give your view on what the DAO is, how the DAO works? A lot of people ask us about that. I guess it all links back to NFTs, but Regina or Philip, do you want to talk about the DAO for a second?
Yeah, I can talk a little bit about what a DAO is. So DAO stands for Decentralized Autonomous Organization. And basically it works as a form of, it's an organization, as the name says, that self-governs in a decentralized way. So for example, we have our own DAO at Mnfts, which is how we manage the funds that we have to invest in artists. So in order for a project to be approved, it needs to be submitted to the DAO, and then each council member of the DAO needs to vote in order for the process to be approved. And that can be applied to anything pretty much. So a DAO, can use the word, it can be a cooperative, for example. It can be used as an art organization as well. So we have a few DAOs with artists, that have projects that we're working with. A DAO can even be, let's say, an Uber. So imagine if we create a decentralized Uber and we have a collective of Uber drivers that decide how much a trip costs, how much revenue each of them keeps through a DAO. So a decentralized organization where each one of the drivers would have a words on the technology that's being built, how it goes, who takes over which roles, etc.
Yes,
You just made me think, by the way, the next Uber will be a DAO.
I would say so.
Yeah. I think most businesses, as we currently understand it to be, will be in some sort of decentralized ownership format. And I think I go back to the whole iteration of the Web 3.0. It is the decentralized ownership, it is decentralized wealth, and it's also decentralized governance. So everyone who's got a stake in a project will have a say on the outcome, how it's run, how it's governed, how it's priced, the strategy. So this is very exciting. I think also when you look at a lot of the world's problems right now, it comes from a centralized force. I think when we start decentralizing it, I think most communities know how to run themselves. I think we just sometimes need to let some authority step out of the way and let it happen. So
that's going to scare some governments, but yeah, I couldn't agree with you.
I wanted you to have a disclaimer in there, like this is not a
it's
political
all our own opinions, and some projects fail, just like companies can by people. Legal disclaimers. But bottom line is everything's going to change. Look, I think the parting words, I mean, a lot of people are asking questions based on things that they know, right? So what don't they know is a kind of an interesting element. I think a lot of things you talked about today, like sandbox, decentralized land, and talked about the DAO. I do believe a lot of people don't even know these things yet. So it's great that we bring them up. Is there anything as we close that you guys think we haven't covered here that would be useful for those that are looking to understand this space and leverage the opportunity ahead? And just, I'll give you a moment to think about that question before I ask you both in closing statements. For those listening, I'm going to put links to the Purposeful Project here. You can go back and listen to this video. We do webinars every single week. We never charge for these webinars. Our whole ethos is to help those that need it, get the knowledge they need to go out there and have a purposeful life. So you can join any of these events. The guests that come on here do not charge us to be here. They give up their time to give you knowledge. And so we're never selling anything, we're never upselling anything. And if you want to join any of these events, you're always welcome. You can go on our website and find out about the ones we've got coming up all weekend. Pretty much every weekend we do something. We've also started a Discord channel 7 days ago that already has 350 entrepreneurs in it, all helping each other. We call it Entrepreneurs Helping Entrepreneurs. So the whole idea is you're not alone. If you need help, you're not alone. And there's so many ways to reach out to not feel alone and get questions answered that you have, and find out questions that you should be asking, like what is a DAO, right? And so please feel free. I'll put the links in the comments below to jump and join there. In addition, Regina and Phil's contact details are below. Please follow them on social media, on Twitter. You will learn a lot if you do. And so closing, Phil, do you want to go first? Maybe anything you'd like to close with that you think people should be aware of?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, you know, most people are not alone. There are going to be commonalities out there. So when starting out, do your own research, find a community that resonates with you. Join the community, participate in the conversation, bring value to that community, make friends and family. I know that with the first lockdowns, people, you know, with the project that we were working on, people were sending us almost love letters, you know, daily, saying, thank you, you've saved us, because we're bringing back human connection. And I think, you know, that is something that is sadly lost, but there's communities out there waiting for your participation, your input. I think everyone's got great ideas. And I think that's, you know, go out there and find a community that resonates with you. And there are so many out there, and it doesn't necessarily always have to be the biggest or the coolest. It can be something that resonates with you, your appeal. But I think also just to really understand, the barriers of entry are really dropping quickly. I think the cost barriers are dropping extremely quickly. I think there are very exciting onboarding projects like various, you know, marketplaces like Mnfts or Space 7 that are going to provide you with these portals into the next iteration of new finance, business, community, social awareness, and everything else. So go out there and find these projects, and you know, feel free to reach out to me or my team anytime and ask us questions, and, you know, really get involved in what I think is a very exciting time to be alive.
I couldn't agree more. Regina, last but certainly not least.
Yeah, absolutely. So everything that Philip said, and also don't be afraid you don't need to be super technologically savvy at the moment to get into the NFT space. So even if all the jargon sounds really confusing and it feels like a rabbit hole that you're about to get into, it absolutely is, but also it's quite easy right now to get started. So the barriers to entry are really a lot lower, and there are a ton of tools out there to allow you to easily get into the NFT and the blockchain space without needing to be a very techie person at all. So I guess that's just what I wanted to add. It's really up for grabs, everyone, and we're still very early adopters, absolutely. So I think getting into this space right now with all the tools and everything that's happening in the community, everyone's super excited about what we're building. So I think, yeah, if you're interested in opening up a store, getting started with NFTs, do reach out. More than happy to help.
If I can, I just want to also close on something that because this is about young entrepreneurs and getting into the space, and there is the fear of 99% of these projects failing because they're all copying something that might have happened in the past. I think, Regina, you brought up the first point on utility, and I think that is so important to stress and close on, is that if you're going to start these projects, you have to think of utility, you have to think of value that you will create for your potential communities coming into the arena. Don't go out there and imitate another project and just think it's just a piece of it's a JPEG or something, because the chances are then you will fail. You have to think about utility and added added differentials to your community and what value you can bring to them in the real sense of the word.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I feel honored to have you both here. Appreciate you both giving up your evening. We are now actually jumping over to Discord. Me and my team are now jumping over to Discord, where we'll be able to have a discussion about what we've learned from Phil and Regina. So I've just put the link in the chat. If you wish to come over, join the general area. We'll have a live voice chat now. My team and you guys can come and discuss what you've learned here from Regina and Phil. Thank you to you both for joining this evening. Really appreciate it. And we hope to have you back on as this exciting, I guess, universe unfolds and you come back and educate us more on not only what you're doing, but what we all need to know to make our futures better. So thank you again, both of you, so much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for having me.
All right, guys. So I've just dropped the link to Discord in the group chat, and we'll see you over there in the next 2 minutes. Thank you, guys.
Cheers, guys. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
There we go, folks. That's the end of our broadcast today. We'll see you on Discord. Link below if you're listening to this on YouTube.